Right, gang, our last game did well, and I think it's time we do a sequel. Something higher budget, something bigger. We gotta keep those bugs for obvious marketable reasons. What should the second enemy faction be? I completely agree with what you just... The Automatons are by far my favorite faction from Helldivers 2. From their gameplay, their designs, and inspiration, everything about them is just... oh boy, they're so cool. They were the reason I got the game in the first place. Just to share my old war days. My first ever mission was on Malevolent Creek, and I have this very specific moment of me and the rest of my very fresh squad running away from this giant oven with a flamethrower and a chainsaw, and when we were just running towards Pelican, trying to get home, trying to get back on it, trying to evacuate, we see it rip through this wall that surrounded the evacuation, and fire just encompassed one whole half of the area, and we were terrified. It was god awful. So, to celebrate my newfound hatred for binary code, I want to go over some ideas for the future of the Automatons, and also share off some enemy concepts I better come up with. Let's get on to the video. The Automatons are so cool, and with how the story is panning out right now, they're finally getting their time to shine, as for the most part, Arrowhead has kind of left them on the wayside. They haven't received any new mission types or any specialized environments for players to fight them in, unlike the Bugs and the Illuminate. I always find it kind of weird that whenever we fight them on a planet that's meant to have factories or is a giant forge, we never actually see the giant forge or fight in the factories, which could be changing with how some stuff's turning out at the moment. My guess is that Arrowhead wasn't too confident with how the AI would work, or if the gameplay would even work in these more enclosed environments. With the last big update into the Unjust, they did, however, bring in these environments. The Hive World Caves worked exactly how I thought they would. There are definitely areas that can be worked on to better fit the automatons. My main complaints for these environments were the bugs that came with them. Being forced to spawn on the roof, and because of how the game won't allow you to move over certain objects, you're kind of forced to spawn on top. And because it needs to be big enough to fit a Bile Titan, you can't just jump down and survive the fall. I believe this bug did get patched with later updates, but it definitely put a damper on the new environment. And Into the Unjust had a bunch of other larger issues, but that's something else. There's plenty of videos for that. Now, I know Arrowhead updates being buggy. Oh, why don't you tell me something new, wise guy? And you know what? I wanted to share my own personal idea on what a indoor bot environment could look like. The first would be infiltrating some secure bases. Maybe you're going in to find some important info. Maybe they're working on a new super weapon that we have to prepare accordingly. Maybe we're trying to find blueprints for their own machines and reverse engineer it for us. All I'm saying is, if they can look at our exosuits and make War Striders, why can't we look at their War Striders and make even cooler mechs? I mean, like, come on, Arrowhead, it just makes sense! This type of environment could bring in tight corridors and hallways, forcing players to look for or even bring their own cover, or even consider a more stealthier route. I propose these buildings have vents that players can crawl through by going prone. The vents would only be big enough to fit one person at a time, but you could have other areas where like sealed doors didn't close all the way, being just wide enough to fit the whole squad through. This type of environment would practically be very similar design-wise to the Hive World Caves, as in you would have areas with supplies scattered about. You would be able to you'd find a scanner somewhere where you would be given a map of the area, allowing you to find the samples or any other trinkets. The second idea, which I see happening more and more with how the game's turning out, would be factories. Large-scale factories whose whole purpose is to build more troops and weaponry like your turrets and cannons. You would have these long, huge conveyors with tank parts, trooper chassis strung up being moved along, huge vats of molten steel bubbling, just waiting for players to fall into. My favorite inclusion with the high world tunnels were the destructible bridges, and I think this should stick with these types of environments, rewarding players for their quick thinking. One cool idea I want them to include, if they ever do factories, would be that in these huge factories, players can find these colossal parts, giant cannons being welded together, pieces that look like joints, or something that just scarily looks like an eyeball, a mechanical eye. This would be a fantastic way to foreshadow the introduction for the Hive Lord equivalent for the boss, or set up anything else that they're working on. This is probably the best time for me to show off my enemy concepts for this faction. Unlike the squids, I only have like 3 ideas for these guys, as the bots kind of have the right amount of enemies. It's at a point where, whenever they do add new ones, it's either just an improved version of the Hulk, or just a reskin of the Hulk. The first one I wanted to go over is my idea for a ranged bot unit, the Marksman. I'm quite surprised that the faction whose whole gameplay that relies on shooting the player from a distance doesn't have a sniper unit. Well, an official sniper unit, I mean. I wanted to make the Marksman a light chaff enemy because I think a heavier, more durable enemy, like a Devastator, would be a bit too unfair. This guy will stay far behind normal roaming squads of automatons, which can make your standard little skirmishes with bot squads more tense if you didn't know or just didn't take care of their sniper right away. For bases, there would be a new addition of bird nests where they can take cover and fire at the player. I'm pretty happy with the design, as I wanted to bring in more of the berserker look. You have the destroyed torso, the dangling red tubes which kind of fool you into thinking it's guts and gore, the scrap metal that's been welded on to look like spikes, as well as the ever-present bone trophies. Hulks and berserkers have the tops of skulls. The Marksman has a little jaw necklace. For the big old thing on its shoulder, it's meant to be a Pathfinder / spotter type of device. It helps break up the silhouette from looking too similar from the other bot troopers. The Marksman, in my honest opinion, would be a very easy addition. You would have more ranged battles and automatically make smaller, meaningless fights way harder. These guys on top of colony maps or even mega city maps would be like a horror movie, man. Next on the factory floor is the Hound. In the original Helldivers game, cyborgs had a dog enemy. They were small, but became a much more dangerous enemy when players just didn't kill them right away and ignored them, as they would be able to knock the player down and then kill them quite easily. For this version of the enemy, I wanted this guy to be much larger and way more intimidating. Something closer to giant wolves than, I don't know, a Labrador? These guys would be the fastest unit they have. Unlike the majority of the automaton enemies, you can't outrun this guy. It would work by running towards the player and lunging to bite them. Just like berserkers, it would be a one-shot to the player if it hits you, but to keep it nice and fair, when charging, its body scrapes against itself, making a very distinct noise, making it very easy for players to know when it's charging, so they can dive out of the way. I didn't want to do heavy footsteps, as although it could work if I do it in a different pattern than other enemies, I feel like that would be very easy to miss with the inclusion of louder enemies like Hulks, War Striders, Berserkers, and then you've got the addition of the music, you've got the gunfire, then you've got the explosions. So for an enemy like this, you need to be able to know when they're coming to keep it fair. Giving it a distinct sound effect works much better in the same vein as how Left 4 Dead tackled their special infected. Each special infected had a special track that would play before spawning in. This would prepare players and also punish those who weren't paying attention to the game, and also make whole fights way more interesting if you didn't tell your buddy that there's a giant ghoul coming by. I got some incredible help from killer artist Zach Online. His mechanical work is top notch, and I was so happy that he was able to help me with these designs. He helped me improve the detail as well as making sure they actually fit with the other design schemes of the automaton, so it doesn't seem too, fanficky. He also helped me with the geometry of a lot of the designs, as I'm not the best with mechanical details. Get me to draw a cube, I'm gonna cry. Get me to draw a ghoul, sign me up. I am so happy with how these guys came out. Go and support Zach on all of his social medias. If I'm right, he is still doing commissions. Get yourself a war machine drawn by this guy. Get anything. He is fantastic. His prices are fair. He's a fantastic guy. Go support him. Tell him Slane sent you. Thumbs up. Have fun, bro. The last enemy I want to show off is the Hive Lord equivalent for the bots, the Destroyer. I've had the most fun designing this guy. I had the most fun making sure how he would work. This guy's sick. I love him. I've been dying to know what the bot version for this guy would be since they brought back Hive Lords. Whether it was going to follow how they are bringing back older previous bosses from the last game, like the Hive Lord, they would bring back Siege Mechs, which were these huge bosses that look fantastic, and I would kill to fight them. Although, I do like the idea of subverting expectations and creating a whole new type of enemy. I've seen people suggest enemies in the style of Metal Gear, which would be just as cool. But I wanted to do my own thing, so I came up with this bad boy. Sadly, this guy isn't as big as a Hive Lord. I know that's going to be such a bummer for some people, but they would still be the second biggest enemy in the game. Did make up the size difference in firepower. Its body is big enough to tear through buildings with ease. It is equipped with the first of its kind designed rail cannon. Thanks to some Super Earth inspired designs, we really gotta like put a lock on our blueprints. They gotta stop getting stolen, man. This gun doesn't just damage the environment, it destroys the environment. Hive Lords reshape the terrain whenever it surfaces from the ground. The Destroyer completely removes whole rows of buildings, creating a shockwave which sends players flying. For the other arm, it is a colossal flamethrower, able to cover whole forests in flames and burn down whole streets. This is strictly here to break the spirits of Super Earth. For its legs, it has 2 gun turrets on the inside, which will start to shred players to bits if they get a little too close. It also has gun turrets on its chest and shoulders. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is clearly not enough firepower. We need more! We need rockets! The Destroyer will suddenly stop moving and launch 3 high-class rockets. They will only launch once the player is far away, but is still in its line of sight. Although the rockets are powerful, they do have a set path, being where the Destroyer saw you last. This means players can run to either side, hoping that they don't get hit in the blast, or run backwards towards the enemy, as the Destroyer can no longer defend itself as it needs to become fully stationary to shoot the rockets, leaving it very vulnerable to bombs. Secret third option, which I will highly applaud, which would be the ability to use your recoilless to shoot it out of the air, or your missile silo to shoot it out of the air. I think that would be a very good touch, as it's the little gamble that players can take on whether they want to do something radical. Now, it might seem this guy is just fully unfair. You can't get close or he'll die. You can't get far away, you'll die. But believe me, each piece of its weaponry has a major flaw due to either its size or design. The rail cannon, although devastating, its reload time is it's not good for the poor guy. So it takes a long while, which practically takes out a commission for a lot of fights. The flamethrower has an armored tank that can be damaged to destroy the fuel for the weapon, taking that one out as well. And like I said before, the Destroyer needs to lock up to fire off the high-class rockets, which gives players the chance to move in close and start firing at the guy's weak points, his joints. Its hip joints and arm joints need to be destroyed to kill the enemy, as it would take more time and more heavy weapons to destroy it through blunt force. Not saying that you can't just keep firing rockets at its head, but it would take a lot longer in comparison. But by destroying its joints, you let gravity do the rest of the work for you, and have it fall apart as it can no longer support its huge body. And the many gun turrets that scatter its body can be destroyed quite easily from afar with either a stratagem or a rocket, which allows players to get up and close. But still, to keep it fair, the robot can still stomp its feet, sending players ragdolling across the map or whatever, as well as having a huge crowd of automatons behind it following it wherever it goes. The final fuck you from the automatons is that just like Hulks and Factory Striders, the destroyer will explode once destroyed, but just a bit bigger.
I think a destroyer was here. You know, just a hunch.
How can you how can you tell there, buddy? I hope you guys liked my huge yap fest for these concepts. I'm definitely most proud of how the Destroyer came out. The name is still a bit iffy. I've said this in every damn video I've ever done. I'm not good with names. And if you guys have any suggestions for any of these guys, put them in the comments. I'm not used to drawing mechs or other robots, so this was quite the new step in making my art not suck as much career. Designing these guys was so much fun, and I can't wait to see what Arrowhead actually does for the automatons. As of the recording, the game is in a bit of a shaky spot. The game has been suffering a lot of optimization and tech debt issues. Only recently has Arrowhead actually been doing something about it. However, people like myself are still dealing with game-breaking glitches where the game freezes up or just completely crashes out of nowhere, ruining whole missions and just ruining the fun of the game. Arrowhead has said that they're going to stop pushing out new content until the game is in a much more playable state. So we might be waiting a bit longer for the automatons to finally get some new content, which is oh, you poor guys, you poor Terminator pieces of shit. I also want to thank Below Zero for his little help voicing little guy. That was very nice of him. Depending on when this video is released, either he is planning on it or already has released a video on the biological analysis of the automatons, which would be a sequel series and his biological analysis of the Terminids, which I love that video. It's so good. I love whenever anyone talks about the actual evolution and the realism towards these creatures. It's very fantastic. I love it. That's why I like Monster Hunter and a bunch of other stuff. It's so cool. I go subscribe to him, go support him. It's so good. I love his content. Last thing I want to say is that if you want a ghoul drawn up, message me on my Ko-fi or my VGN, as my commissions are still open. All of the links to the people that have worked and or helped me in this video are in the description, and I say it again, support them as much as you can. These are fantastic people. I hope you all have a very good day, and I will see you next time.